Hello, everyone. Welcome to our cyber training webinar. I'm so glad to have our today's speaker, Dr. Henrikki Tenkanen, from the Department for Built Environment at Aalto University to join us. So today his topic is the potential and threats related to open geospatial data in the uncertain geopolitical environment. Dr. Henrikki Tenkanen is a geographer and assistant professor of geoinformation technology in the Department of Built Environment at Aalto University. And Aalto University is also my home institution. I got my PhD degree from the same department in Aalto. So he currently leads the GST lab that is focused on big data analytics, spatial analysis and modeling, mobility research, and cybersecurity related to open geospatial data. Dr. Danganen is especially interested about open science education, and he has contributed to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization's recommendation on open science. So he is the author of various open science courses targeted at the geographer and forthcoming book of Introduction to Python for Geographical Data Analysis. So in addition, Dr. Danganen is also a core developer and contributor to various GIS software libraries for Python. So let's give our warmest welcome to Dr. Danganen. Thank you so much for your time, and so the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for a very nice introduction, and thank you for inviting me here. It's my pleasure to say a few words about what we are doing here in Finland. So indeed, my name is Henrikki Tenkanen. I'm an assistant professor of geoinformation technology here at Aalto University. Back in the days, I did my PhD at the University of Helsinki, which is the second big university in the Helsinki region, Finland. And then I was a couple of years at University College London in UK at the Center of Advanced Spatial Analysis team. But then, I started here at Aalto University, and I'm indeed leading this GIS lab, Geoscience for Sustainability Transformations group. We are approximately 10 researchers at the moment. And basically what we are doing is that we have kind of three more or less kind of core research themes. So we are doing quite a bit of work related to sustainable mobility and accessibility research using different kind of data sets and modeling approaches. Then we are doing quite a bit of human environment interaction kind of research. And of course, as I'm kind of a geoinformation scientist by background, so kind of the modeling and data science, developing these kind of different methods and tools for understanding different questions related to these themes is very much at the core of what we do. And kind of the motivation for doing research for us is that kind of centered around questions of sustainable development, urban design, spatial planning, and these kind of questions. We have indeed developed quite a few different, mostly for Python programming language, but also we are kind of part of the something for R as well, especially related to R5R. So we are kind of providing these sister sibling packages related to kind of routing and travel time matrix and calculations and these kind of things. But then, mostly we are doing kind of Python tools and methodologies that help to understand these sustainability related questions, and all of these are kind of openly available for anyone to use in research, for planning, whatever people want to use them for. But this has kind of been, in addition to the research itself, being quite an important aspect for our group, so that we kind of generate not only papers but also software for people. Then, as Jay mentioned, so I've been quite a lot involved developing learning resources, training material, open courses. So on the on the right side here, there are a few of the courses and indeed the book as well that Jay mentioned. So Python for geographic data analysis related things. And I will today, as Jay mentioned, and well, kind of makes sense. So the kind of high performance computing is, of course, interest to many of you. So something that we have developed quite recently is the spatial data science with high performance computing. So I have a couple of slides introducing that. In case you are interested in like finding these, so of course you can Google and probably find them that way, but also there is a link to my website where there is kind of direct links and bit of explanation what these different resources are about. But yeah, so in this talk, basically, I have two different parts and the things that I want to discuss. So first, I kind of, when I started thinking about what to present in here, so then I was thinking that probably introducing actually the Finnish cyber infrastructure for GIS and geospatial research could be quite interesting for you guys also to hear also about. So basically, with this, I will kind of provide a few things regarding the potential of open geospatial data and geocomputation and how we are kind of doing these things in Finland. And then the second part then kind of focuses on aspects that are not necessarily discussed too much about, at least this wasn't discussed in Finland because like due to the war in Europe and so on, so pretty much the whole government in here woke up that, okay, we are sharing quite a bit of these open geospatial data that can be even quite sensitive. So we should actually understand that what are the threats and risks related to these things, which of course provide a lot of benefits for the society, but we also need to understand the threats and possible risks related to it. So we did one project related to these aspects, and kind of the second part of this talk will focus on that one. But I will start now by introducing indeed the Finnish cyber infrastructure, which is called Geoportti research infrastructure. So Geoportti can be, it's kind of, Portti is like a gateway, basically. So it's a gateway for all sorts of geo-related things that we do. And I'm the deputy director of this kind of research infrastructure project. And basically what we are doing is that this Geoportti research infrastructure is kind of a indeed open shared service for researchers, teachers, and students in Finland. And also there is a limited access for certain services for companies as well. And basically so this research infrastructure started already 2016. I have been myself more involved basically after I started at Aalto University, so 2020. So Juha Oksanen from Finnish Geospatial Research Institute is the director of this research infrastructure. But there are lots of partners, so we are basically 10 institutions at the moment in Finland that are part of this research infrastructure and basically mostly using either the geocomputing services or the data services that this infrastructure provides. And our goal is basically to empower cutting-edge, reproducible scientific research that is based on kind of geospatial data. And we integrate massive geospatial data, advanced tools, methodologies within high-performance computing infrastructures that is maintained by CSC Finland, which is this kind of national computing kind of center that is available for all Finnish universities and research institutes, and also partially kind of owned by the universities in Finland. And basically at the moment, we are kind of providing these services and kind of more or less we did a bit of investigation. So it seems that around 160 scientific papers per year are published that have been using our services. So Finland is still a relatively small country, so we are 5.5 million people in here. So I think it's quite a nice number considering that there isn't so huge number of researchers working in Finland either. But yeah, so that's kind of what we we are, and we indeed provide different services. So I guess the most kind of important ones are the geodata, metadata services, storing and sharing services, as well as then the high performance computing, processing and geoanalytics services. So basically providing high performance computing possibilities for researchers that they can, I don't know, if you need to do an analysis and require 200 gigabytes of memory and 100 cores, so you can basically do that quite easily with our services. And naturally, kind of the skills development and innovation is one of the core areas where especially universities are quite at the core in here, and I'm personally kind of leading this side of the Geoportti research infrastructure. We just heard news that we secured funding for the next 5 years, which is great. So we continue to develop these services further with funding and with these partners. And this is can be quite messy looking picture, but this kind of shows a bit the landscape, what kind of things relate to our cyber infrastructure in here. And now basically starting next year, so we are focusing on these specific focus areas, kind of specific themes that are here on the bottom of the slide. So we are focusing on natural resources, sustainable land use, nature loss, sustainable mobility, and cultural heritage. And then kind of basically the services that we are providing pretty much is built on top of the high performance services of CSC Finland, which is the kind of institute center providing the cloud computing possibilities. Yeah, but then we are basically integrating data from various sources into these services that we also share for researchers. Basically, the idea is that the data should be very easily accessible for researchers from various different themes and so on. Yeah, and then one thing that we indeed have now developed the past year, more or less, can be maybe interesting to someone in the audience. So the spatial data science with high performance computing. So this is publicly available and openly available for anyone. So there's this dedicated website, geohpc.readthedocs.io, where we are more or less sharing a bunch of tutorials and information, kind of how the researchers can start using some of these tools and techniques to parallelize more or less the computational loads related to different kind of analysis in here. These materials are specifically designed for the cyber infrastructure in Finland, so the CSC services. But more or less all the tutorials, so whatever backend, whatever kind of high performance computing resources you have available, so they are agnostic from that regard. So basically, even though you don't have access to the CSC services in Finland, you can still follow the same principles and use the tools in a similar manner with other infrastructure as well. And this is basically a screenshot of the website. So it kind of has currently 5 lessons related to different different themes using kind of massive data as a starting point. So we have kind of lessons or tutorials for point aggregation, shortest path analysis, parallelizing those things, land cover classification, then something related to vector tiles, and then something related to this overture maps data, which is kind of a quite nice global data set nowadays available, partially built on top of OpenStreetMap, but there are some companies also involved in this. So in case you are interested, so the website is a good starting point. Each of these tutorials, so they are also Jupyter notebooks, so you can just download the notebook from the website if you want to try it out on your own computer or some other infrastructure that you have access to. But yeah, then few details about this Geoportti kind of a user base. So more or less, so at the moment we have a nice kind of inclining trend in here in terms of the number of users that are actually using our geocomputing services, and the users of data services is of course much higher. So we have approximately, well, a bit less than 3,000 users, individual users for the data, whereas the computational service users are around 300, kind of what we kind of predict for this year. But we of course hope that in the future these numbers will go even higher when we continue with the development project. One of the things which is quite nice, well, I was part of this, so it was, yeah, I'm of course saying this because I was involved, but it was also quite interesting. We organized for the very first time in kind of fall 2023, so more or less like a year ago, this kind of innovation challenge camp. So we called it Geospatial Challenge Camp, which was targeted for young researchers, so PhD students, also postdocs, and also late stage master students in Finland, where the idea was that we formed these kind of multidisciplinary teams that were actively collaborating with real stakeholders. So there were the theme of the first challenge camp was health and well-being. So there were basically NGOs and the public sector organizations like well-being services, county in Finland, also the Helsinki kind of healthcare kind of services and so on were part of this. And yeah, it was quite an interesting event and very fruitful for the teams as well as for us. It was quite a nice experiment. The picture here shows more or less the kind of participants of the first challenge camp. And so there were 4 teams altogether, and actually 2 of those teams have continued after this camp. So there is basically one of the solutions that the teams were creating related to health and well-being. So the city of Turku, which is one of the cities in Finland, so they kind of continued developing that further. And then there is another team that also is kind of at the initial stages of creating a startup out of these experiences and the initial solution that they created during this challenge camp. So yeah, it was quite a nice experience and activity. And we continue doing these basically next spring. We have the next challenge camp starting. And if you are interested, so there is this challenge camp .geoportti.fi website. So similarly as all the other courses, so this is fully open access, and if you're interested in the concept, you can find more or less all the information from this website. It still has the information from 2023, so at some point we kind of update for the coming year these things. But yeah, that was kind of showing a little bit what we do in terms of kind of this high performance computing and cyber infrastructure in Finland. And now, indeed, as I mentioned in the beginning, I will kind of continue to focus more on the data aspects of like geospatial data aspects and especially to the threats, as I mentioned in the beginning. So as the kind of the webinar is about disaster management and using cyber kind of infrastructure for doing these things, so I started kind of, well, first of all, for you guys to understand. So Finland is, in a sense, kind of a bit boring country that we are relatively safe in terms of, for example, natural disasters and these kind of things. Of course, climate change and so on is influencing, and we also get more extreme weather events and these kind of things. But still, it's relatively calm, so to say, in Finland. But naturally, it is not that our government and kind of the different organizations who are dealing with safety related issues aren't kind of awake. So what we are doing on a national level in Finland is this kind of national risk assessment, which is done every 5 years, more or less, that aim to identify different kind of threats and risks to the functioning, to the functions vital to the society, and they can be on an individual level, societal level, or global level threats and so on. So when we kind of started um, um, doing the research project focusing on the threats related to open geospatial data. So this was kind of a natural starting point for us, and we kind of started thinking of different potential different kind of threat categories and so on from using this as a starting point. And basically, so as a starting point, so the open geospatial data is very much mainstream in Finland, has been already for over a decade. So Finland has had a very strong national strategy opening data. I guess in US, kind of the openness of data has been very strong as well, and Finland in Europe is one of the leading ones, I would say, in Europe in terms of opening governmental data and so on. But of course, what happened a couple of years ago, so tremendous change happened, especially in Finland, in terms of the geopolitical environment. So the war started in Ukraine, and basically, in a matter of one night, the kind of minds of the Finnish people changed over NATO membership. And basically, we kind of applied for NATO, and well, nowadays we are part of NATO as well. But these kind of influenced a lot, kind of the standing of Finland in terms of many things. And indeed, at the same time when the war in Europe started, so there started discussions about that, okay, what are actually the threats related to the open data that we have been publishing a lot in Finland. And more or less this was the kind of that initialized the project that we did together with the National Land Survey of Finland, as well as many ministries in Finland. And basically, we have, so what I will be sharing you is based on, we have published one conference paper about this as well. So if you're interested, you can kind of read a little bit more about this. So this was done by me, but mostly about by my colleague Jussi Nikander, who is a kind of senior lecturer at Aalto University, and then our PhD student Teemu Jama. So we were kind of leading this work, and also, well, the supervisor of CHE, Kirsi Virrantaus, also involved in the background, although she's not one of the authors in here. But yeah, so basically we were and everyone who was involved in the project were interested in terms of the what are the impacts of openness of data and so on. And maybe as a starting point and background, so of course when we talk about open data or closed data, so it's not either or, it's actually this kind of spectrum. And this is an image by Open Data Institute that kind of shows the more or less the spectrum from fully closed data towards the open, and in the middle we typically have shared data. So it's not fully open like OpenStreetMap, for example, but it might be requiring that you, for example, identify yourself to be able to get access to the data, or you need to write a contract with the organization, for example, that is providing the data for whoever is willing to or interested to get access to it. But then, so this is kind of a like, and we are talking about various different data sets, and they kind of fall under some of these groups and on this spectrum that we more or less have in Finland. And then when we think about spatial data, so there is tremendous amount of spatial data produced by public sector as well as private sector, and then there is also this user-generated data that well, more or less every one of us are willingly or unwillingly producing, that is, for example, captured by